When you talk about the coalitions of people coming together on race, on gender, on climate, but you also tweeted last night about the climate's a meta crisis. So, can you talk about how important it is to build coalitions and how intertwined they are towards justice, but also climate change as a meta crisis?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people use this phrase I hear among sort of climate professionals where they talk about people being in the climate space. Like I work in the climate space, and I always find that terminology so amazing, especially for people who work on climate, because we're all in the climate space. Like there's nobody outside of the climate space, and I mean, we are literally talking about the infrastructure of our planet that is in crisis, and so it isn't a hierarchy. It isn't about saying, and this is, I think, a huge error that environmentalists have too often made to sort of to play this my crisis is bigger than your crisis. Um, First, we have to save the planet, and then we'll worry about racism, and then we'll worry about poverty. But nothing matters if the earth burns. And I've been in meetings where people have said this, and it is a great way to build a very white, very middle class movement because everything's in crisis. It isn't just climate. There's a crisis of white supremacy. There's a crisis of poverty and inequality and injustice. And if you are on the front lines of any one of those crises, it's existential for you, right? And so, white environmentalists coming along and saying, no, but this is existential, just communicates that you don't get it, right? That you don't actually have to worry. Um, Edward Said, the famous Palestinian intellectual, once described environmentalism as an issue for people who lack a proper cause. Um, and I think that, I don't think he was discounting the reality of environmental crises, but he was sort of describing the profile of who was attracted to these movements. And so I think that this is where I think the environmental justice movement, the indigenous leadership in Canada, I mean, who is leading the fight against these pipelines? It's indigenous people, whether it's north or south of the border. Um, and the urgency comes when people's water is at risk. I mean, I think about being at Standing Rock and the way people fought there to stop that pipeline that threatened Standing Rock's drinking water. It's a different. It had a completely different quality of resistance because of that. And so it is a meta crisis. All of our crises fit within the infrastructure of our planet, but we can't conclude from that means that first we fix climate and then we worry about everything else. Because I think the way we build a movement with the urgency that we need is by connecting it with all of those other urgent crises.